don't think it's completely your fault that you feel lonely or that you're isolated or that you don't have friends, that you don't know how to socialize. I myself went through a phase where I felt very, very unhappy and even suicidal when I was younger. It's not a bad thing necessarily to be lonely. Part of the problem of loneliness is
people are lonelier than ever, according to many of the stats. And when you look at the impact that's having on people, it's equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, according to some reports. They're more likely to live alone. They're more likely to feel lonely, to report feeling lonely. They're more likely to feel that they have nobody to turn to in a time of crisis, according to some studies as well. They're more addicted than ever before. You can class that in a number of ways, chemical addictions, but social media addictions and other things. And that's the state of especially young men. You know, it's young women too are having their own struggles, especially with anxiety and the comparisons and those kind of things we've talked about. But young people generally, and especially young men, are killing themselves at higher rates than ever before. Suicide, as you know, is one of the biggest killers of young men. What is the antidote for this? This sense of powerlessness, loneliness, isolation, addiction, aimlessness?
Well, you know, our tendency would be to bring it down to the individual level, but I think it's also a cultural problem. I think our culture is contributing to it. The kind of aimlessness in our culture where we don't really talk about the skills that are necessary to get ahead. Our culture promotes all kinds of bad values. It emphasizes fame and celebrity. It doesn't talk about discipline. It doesn't give young men a sense of purpose and direction. It doesn't value them. You know, right now, a lot of young men feel like, you know, it's women that are getting all the attention. That why am I, you know, what is my purpose here? So I think it's a cultural problem more than anything else. And when I say that, that kind of absolves individuals. But I don't mean to do that as well, because you are an individual, you live in this culture, and you've got to get yourself out of that kind of hole that this culture is imposing on you. And so I have a lot of sympathy for it, because I don't think it's completely your fault that you feel lonely or that you're isolated or that you don't have friends, that you don't know how to socialize. You know, I didn't have this phone in my hand when I was in my formative years, and I had to meet women when I wanted to, you know, at that point in my life in the 70s when I was in my 20s. And so I had to go out there and suffer from rejection. I had to go to bars, I had to go to clubs. I had to put myself out there and meet them, and it was tough, and I learned skills, seduction skills, whatever you want to call them, but just social skills about, you know, women think differently than you. They have different values than you. What are their values? Get outside of yourself and think about what it's like to be them and what you can do that's going to please them and get them, how you can enter into their world. You have none of that now, none of that. It's all, you know.
Swipe, swipe, swipe.
Yeah. So you're not going out, you're not developing that muscle, you're not putting yourself in live in interacting with people where you're feeling their body language, their nonverbal communication. So no wonder your social skills are atrophying. And as your social skills atrophy, it becomes harder and harder and harder to go out there and put yourself on the line because you're not good at it. So you fall into this hole of becoming lonelier and lonelier because it's harder and harder to get out of it. Okay? So I have tremendous empathy, and I would never preach or blame young men in particular for the problems that they're having. And I empathize with it very much so, because I myself went through a phase where I felt very, very unhappy and even suicidal when I was younger. And I understand how your life can turn that way. So I don't mean to ever come across as somebody who has all the answers, because I think it's cultural. But if you are an individual, you have to see that, first of all, it's not a bad thing necessarily to be lonely. Part of the problem of loneliness is it's got this taboo against it, this bad name. Like, it's terrible to be lonely, terrible to be alone, right? And so you feel shamed for the fact that you're lonely. But actually, It's extremely important in life to be alone sometimes and to be able to be on your own and to think about yourself and to kind of come to terms with who you are and to embrace what makes you different. And you can't do that if you feel ashamed about being lonely or if you can't ever be alone. So knowing how to be alone is very important. It's what will make you successful. It will bring you skills. So don't think of it as something necessarily terribly negative in your life. But the other thing is, you have to force yourself. You force yourself to go to the gym to develop muscles and become stronger. You have to force yourself to interact with people and get out of your phone and have real experiences instead of virtual experiences. And if you do that 10 times a month, just like going to the gym 10 times a month, your social skills will get better and better. Your social muscle will get better and better, and you'll feel better about interacting with people.